Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. This session is going to be a little different than what you may have heard earlier this morning, or probably what you're going to hear. But I promise you that if you stick around, you'll walk out of here feeling like you have a very practical tool at your disposal that you can use to cut through all the noise, cut through all the hype, and really reach your audiences and have the innovation that you are building today really resonate and connect with them. So with that, let's get started.
Computers. They've helped us build the world we live in and solve some of our most challenging problems. But we're approaching the border of what we can achieve with the computers we have. We need to explore new ways forward. We believe one of those ways is quantum computing. We've made small but significant steps in the right direction, showing that quantum computers can seriously outperform traditional computers. Now our ambition is to build the world's first truly useful quantum computer. Quantum computers are extraordinary. They harness quantum mechanical properties that occur in nature. Unlike traditional computers, which find solutions one by one, quantum computers can explore multiple solutions simultaneously. This phenomenal leap in computing power could lead to a fundamental shift in how we envision and build our future. A quantum computer could potentially tackle real-world problems in almost every aspect of society. Drug discovery, sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, and even climate science, transforming our way of life and this planet we call home. Our journey into the quantum frontier is just beginning. The road ahead is long, but we can't wait to see where it leads.
By a show of hands, how many of you have walked into an investor meeting, gotten up in front of that room, done your spiel, felt really good, really excited, only to be met with, I have absolutely no idea what just came out of your mouth? I know some of you have, you can't lie to me. The thing is, I know it feels like sometimes it's really hard to explain something as complicated and nuanced as quantum to someone who hasn't dedicated their life to learning everything they can about it. But as we just saw, it is possible. There are ways to do it. And I hope that after the end of these 10 or so minutes, you walk out of here feeling like storytelling, the ability to tell someone what it is that you do and why you do it, isn't as cumbersome as you may have thought or expensive, and that it is something that really should be happening today, not years from now, but today. Because storytelling is an incredibly effective tool to help you reach the next level of growth, but the time to deploy it really is now. So, what do AI, crypto, and nuclear energy have in common? Don't worry, I will tell you, we don't have a ton of time. It is that they let the public narrative run away from them. As human beings, when we do not understand something, we want to fill in the blanks with what we think we know. And when the blanks are filled in with headlines that look like this, 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 or this, what we think we know is really scary, and it's something that we don't really want any part of. And so what happens is investors don't invest, talent goes elsewhere, and regulators overcorrect. AI, crypto, nuclear, they were all on this trajectory that quantum is currently on. And in fact, I would argue that actually the slope is even steeper for quantum because the science and the tech is even more complicated. But we can learn from our predecessors, and we can take this moment to be really thoughtful about the stories that we're putting out into the world, because you're not just building technology. Right now, you are building meaning. And looking to AI can really help us understand what an absence of meaning can do in terms of hindering growth. So AI obviously started off as something that is incredibly academic, very niche, but it exploded. It took off. People started talking about it. The media clung on to it, ran with it, and what we had was one day, AI is going to revolutionize healthcare. And then a few short weeks later, oh, but it's going to end humanity. Oh, and don't worry, it's already embedded in everything that we're doing. Oh, but don't forget, it is gonna end humanity. And so there's a lot of confusion about what AI is, how it's gonna help us, how does it all work. And to be fair to the media and to the general public, the industry itself was actually adding to that identity crisis, right? We have someone, an Anthropic, calling it an assistant, then Sam Altman's calling it a tool, Google's calling it a platform. What is it? How does it work? And really what you see now is that if you were to go out to someone on the street and ask them, is AI going to help you in your life? Only 24% of them will say, yes, it will, right? They do not understand fundamentally what it is and what it can do. And so the vast majority of them are saying, actually, it's gonna hurt me. And the remainder are saying, I honestly can't even answer that question. Now contrast that with the experts, those who do understand it, who's all the little missing pieces, it's filled in for them because they understand it. 76% of them will tell you, oh no, AI is absolutely gonna be beneficial. So the lesson to learn here is that if you don't have a part in shaping the narrative, how people are talking about your technology, what they understand about it, you will spend more time trying to course correct those misconceptions than you will actually creating runway for your innovation to grow and to really realize its potential. Now, you may be sitting here thinking, but I have great intentions. You know, the things that I'm working on are really gonna shape the world for the better. Well, Bitcoin had that same thought, right? Bitcoin started off with incredibly altruistic beliefs, right? We are going to take power, we're going to redistribute it from a select few to the many. Great. But that's not the narrative that followed Bitcoin because bad actors took hold, fraudsters, scammers, and really what was left is a general public, right? Not the experts, but the general public that feels like, I don't really want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. It's not for me. You may have good intentions, but do not think that that is the story, the narrative that is going to follow you with the public. We have to have a hand in shaping that conversation. The good news is, this is our moment. AI, crypto, they had an opportunity. I don't think they seized it in the way that they should have, but we can. Because right now, as we speak, the conversation is being shaped. People are talking about quantum. How do I know that? A few months ago, ATP did a little research study. We looked into what was happening online with conversation. It's actually a really good place to get a sense of how people are thinking and feeling about a specific topic, or rather an innovation. And what we found was really interesting. In 2024, the conversation was really driven by these spikes in activity in the industry. So there would be an announcement about Willow, conversation would spike, right? But for the most part, it was still kind of quiet. Conversely, we looked at 2025, and what we saw is that that conversation has stabilized. It is no longer being driven by these moments far and few between, but instead, it's little conversation happening every single day. And what that's telling us is that the public is interested, and now they're interested all the time, not just in these little moments. And so, yes, people are talking about it, but it is still early days. It has not reached the volume that AI and crypto and nuclear have had. But that's why it's the perfect opportunity for everyone in this room to join the conversation and shape that narrative. So how do we do that? Well, luckily for you, there's 3 really kind of simple and straightforward tactics. Be clear, be human, be practical. What does that mean? Be clear. Avoid the jargon, help people understand, use metaphors, use analogies. I know that it feels like something as complicated as quantum needs really a lot of explanation, but if you boil it down to just kind of this bare kind of roots, people can begin to understand it and start to build on their knowledge of it, right? Be honest and transparent. The speakers before were talking about their timelines and being transparent. It's incredibly important. Think about the industries, AI, that overpromised, overhyped, and now reports are coming out that 95% of the pilot programs aren't working, right? We have to be honest. People value honesty and getting out in front of them and saying, look, this is where we are. It's real, but this is where we are, will gain a lot more credibility than overpromising and under-delivering. Be human. Put people front and center. Yes, this is about abstract physics, 100%. But it's also about human perseverance, it's about curiosity, it is about purpose. Do not be afraid to lean into that. People will remember the why more than the what. And I promise you, if you can give people why, the what will become more real, there will be more urgency behind it, and people will understand it better. And finally, be practical, right? The average human does not understand why being able to generate a random set of numbers is important, right? I cannot, if you were to ask me, I wouldn't be able to tell you, right? So they would rely on you to say, hey, what if we could generate passwords, right? They would then truly become unbreakable. No one is telling you that you need to be working on that application, but just help people paint a picture of the future. That's all that they really need, is to just explain to them, how can this be applied in the future? Now, we've talked about some tactics. I want to also talk about a few levers that you can pull, because you can have a really great message that is clear, that is human, that is practical. But there are little nuanced things that we can do that will help people's understanding that are really quite subconscious. And the first one is visuals. If I were to go and look up quantum right now on Google, these are the visuals that would come back to me. It's very cold, it's very mechanic, it's very foreign, right? Normal people don't love that. They don't love those kinds of emotions. Contrast that with something that looks like this, something that feels more human, feels more of the natural world, feels familiar. Suddenly, the science that feels so kind of far away and maybe scientific or science fiction at times starts to feel like a little bit more familiar. The next is the use of spokespeople. I've talked to you about the why and why it's so important to explain why we are doing these things. But it's equally as important on who delivers that message. The best evangelists for quantum is actually you, everyone in this room who is currently working on it. So come out to the forefront. Be willing to share your why. Be willing to be the face of quantum, because that's how people can relate. They can see you and they can see themselves in you, and they can hear your why and feel much more connected to it than just when it's tech and just numbers and formulas. And then finally, medium shapes message. I know we've all heard that before, but it's really true. Standing up here in a forum like this might help you reach your objective, but maybe a TikTok might help you reach your objective. Yes, a TikTok. Maybe it's a white paper in a scientific journal. Maybe it's a video like the one we saw at the beginning that lives on your YouTube channel. The medium will impact how people perceive your message and what from your message they are picking up. And it's an incredibly important tool to think about combining the two. So we've learned all about meaningful storytelling. I've given you 3 tactics, 3 levers. But I want to say that that's only one half of the equation. The next bit I want to borrow from author James Plunkett. When new technology comes along, it's not just the spread of the technology that has the impact, it's the spread of new behaviors that make the most of the new technology's potential. In other words, you can give someone a piece of technology, you can tell them exactly how to use it and exactly why it's important, and they may never touch it ever again. In order for technology to reach its true potential, people need to use it. And storytelling is one half of that equation, but the other part of that equation is figuring out the right stories to tell. That is what I spend my time doing, is helping companies and organizations and people figure out, how do we tell the story and what story needs to be told, to really help you move from explainer mode to meaning mode. Because the people who support and will adopt and will use quantum in the future, they need to feel like there's a place for them in this technology, and that it's not the scary thing that's going to take over humanity. It's truly there to make them feel better. And so I want to thank you for your time, and I'm going to leave you with this, that it is a once-in-a-generation moment that we are in for quantum to step out and to control the narrative, to give people the information they need to really feel good about it, so that hype doesn't define it, fear doesn't undermine it, and that the people we are doing this for, right, society, humanity, they don't tune it out. Thank you for your time.